Every morning at 6 a.m., a man named Mr. Thomas would enter the Grand Glass building in downtown Chicago. He wore the same faded blue uniform. His hands were wrinkled, his back slightly bent. He cleaned the marble floors with care, humming old jazz tunes under his breath. People called him Old Tom the Janitor. Most employees ignored him. Some laughed behind his back, and some even asked, "Why are you still working at this age?" But Thomas never replied rudely. He would just smile and say, "Work gives me purpose. Everyone has their role in life." One day, the company inside the building got a new CEO, Mr. Bradley Stone. Young, rich, flashy, full of pride. He drove a red Ferrari and wore $1,000 suits. He believed power meant everything, and that people like janitors were invisible. On his first day, he walked past Thomas in the lobby. Thomas smiled and said politely, "Good morning, sir." Bradley glanced at him, smirked, and said, "Try not to leave any dirty spots where I walk." People nearby laughed. Thomas? He simply nodded and returned to mopping the floor. Days passed. Every morning, the CEO would pass the janitor and drop a new insult. "Still alive, old man? Maybe ask for a raise." "Oh wait, you're just a cleaner. Make sure my office door shines. That's all you're good for." Other employees started following the CEO's tone. Some stopped greeting Thomas. Some even mocked him openly. But Thomas never reacted. He still came on time, still smiled, still cleaned every corner like it mattered. One Friday afternoon, the fire alarm rang. Everyone rushed down the stairs. Amid the panic, people noticed Thomas helping an old receptionist down the steps. He didn't run for himself. He helped others out first. Even then, the CEO shouted, "Leave the woman. She's slowing us down." Thomas ignored him. Next Monday, the company was hosting a big investor meeting in the main hall. Mr. Bradley Stone was dressed in his finest. All major investors, partners, and media were there. Before the meeting began, Thomas walked in with his mop to quickly clean up a coffee spill. Bradley saw him and snapped in front of everyone, "Are you blind? Get out of here. This is not your trash corner." The room went silent. Everyone turned to look. Bradley chuckled and said loudly, "Ladies and gentlemen, let's hope this building doesn't smell like janitor sweat while we make million-dollar deals." People gave nervous laughs. But Thomas didn't move. He calmly put down the mop, walked to the center of the room, and said, "Actually, Mr. Stone, I think it's time people know the truth." Thomas reached into his pocket and pulled out a folder. Inside it were property documents. "My name is Thomas Wright. I am not just a janitor. I am the owner of this entire building." Dead silence. People stared. Bradley laughed awkwardly. "What kind of joke is this?" Thomas handed the documents to one of the investors. They checked, stamped, verified. One man whispered, "He's telling the truth. He owns the building." Another said, "Wait, Wright Holdings? That's his name." Yes. Years ago, Thomas had been a successful real estate investor. He had retired early after losing his wife to cancer. He gave up the world of luxury and chose to live a simple life, to stay humble, to stay grounded. He had hired this cleaning job under a different name, just to stay connected to people, to remind himself of life's real meaning. The CEO turned pale. He stuttered, Why didn't you ever say anything?" Thomas looked around and said gently, "Because respect is not something I demand. It's something people choose to give." He looked at the crowd. "I wanted to see who treats others with dignity, even when they think no one is watching." Then he added, "Mr. Stone, Your company's lease expires next month. You may want to look for a new office." The crowd gasped. Investors started murmuring. Some even walked out, shaking their heads. That day, Thomas didn't just mop a floor. He cleaned the room of arrogance. He swept away the dust of ego. Bradley was removed from his position weeks later. The company moved out. But Thomas? He stayed, still mopping the floors. Because for him, it was never about the money. It was about character. About teaching the world that titles don't define worth. And uniforms don't define wisdom. Never judge someone by their job, their clothes, or their silence. The kindest hearts often wear the humblest shoes. Respect is earned, not demanded.